This episode is brought to you by Merrill. Join one of the most iconic names in wealth management, Merrill. You'll be part of a dynamic team of advisors and specialists working hard every day to grow their clients' wealth. And with the support of best-in-class research, advanced digital tools, and the resources of a global institution, it's truly an opportunity you can be bullish about. Learn more at careers.bankofamerica.com. Copyright 2024, Bank of America Corporation.
With supply chains becoming more complex, you need to stay on top of the latest logistics developments. So if you work with logistics, you need the Beyond the Box podcast from Maersk. It's the easy way to keep up to date with everything from digital disruption in logistics to the need for supply chain resilience in today's market. Find out more and keep ahead of the game with the Beyond the Box podcast on logistics insights at maersk.com/insights.
Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the podcast. And I've got Katarina Polonska from Canada. And she helps successful entrepreneurs have successful relationships as much as they are successful in their careers. So it's going to be a really interesting discussion, especially for the female cohort audience. And I'm really happy to have her on and introduce her. So Katarina, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I should caveat, I work with the corporate executives as well. So corporate executives, entrepreneurs, men, women, anyone who wants to improve their relationships. And whilst they do executive coaching, I really am passionate and I focus on romantic relationships.
Yeah. And what's interesting is we had a sex coach last, and briefly introduce yourself and talk about what you do. And I'm excited to dive into the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, my name is Katarina, and my background is behavioral science and then gender dynamics. So I really specialize in looking at the dynamics between masculinity and femininity, men, women. And I did my master's degree at Oxford in that, and I'm a peer-reviewed academic. But really after I did my master's, I did my earlier career, I've been in behavioral science, really understanding psychology, how people operate, what makes them happy. And yeah, I fell into this work ultimately through, I've always been interested in behavioral science. I've always been interested in the gender dynamics aspect. I never thought I would be working in this space or that I'd focus on relationships. Really, that all came about from always being interested in love and thinking it would work out fine for me. I've been in personal growth and development for about 15 years now. My father's a coach. I did my first coaching qualification 17 years ago. Like, I've been so knee deep in doing this work. And when I was engaged to my first fiance, it was a real shock to my system that actually it didn't matter how high performing and quote unquote successful I was. It didn't matter how much meditating I did or how much personal development I did or how on top of my life I felt. The relationship was so radically different to anything else I'd done, especially as we were navigating marriage, financial commitments, intertwining our assets and all kind of big questions. And actually that relationship didn't work out. I ended up walking away from that engagement. And that was really hard. It was honestly quite traumatizing. I was in my early 30s. I wanted kids. I wanted a family. I thought it was, time to settle down. And so having seen my parents go through a divorce, which is awful, in my 20s, and then having my own divorce in my own life in my early 30s, despite all of the success that I had externally, I decided to really double down and go deep on this work. So I started really studying relationships. I'd already been in marriage counseling with him, which hadn't worked out, obviously. But I started really understanding relationship science, right? I educated myself on attachment theory. I went deep into looking at our unconscious blocks around intimacy. I went deep into where do we fear relationships? Where do we sabotage ourselves? Where do we block ourselves? What are our blind spots? And as I really educated myself on relationship science and got to really embody everything that I knew in theory and had skimmed over, I think, but never really applied to myself in depth. As I began to embody all of that, I met my now husband. And obviously we've been in a very different relationship, we're very happily married and all of that. And so as I built my executive coaching practice, I left behavioral science, I left my corporate role where I was a regional vice president. I left that, built my own executive coaching practice and started out by coaching executives. I realized quite quickly, within a number of months, that actually most of the executives that I was working with, whether they were founders, whether they were corporate execs, didn't matter, struggled with their relationships, really struggled with their romantic relationships. And so that's what got me realizing that, hey, I'm not alone in this. This is actually a really common problem. And when we look at the support out there, there isn't much. We've never been taught how to have a healthy romantic relationship. We've never really been taught how to navigate conflicts and communicate and relate properly. We've never been taught how to become securely attached. We've never been taught how to overcome our unconscious block, overcome our fear of intimacy. We've never had any of this stuff. And especially if you are a high-performing exec, if you're working 10 plus hours a day, if you're on a plane half the time, if you're busy, if you're ambitious, if you have audacious goals for yourself, it's not possible to take a 2-week marriage retreat in the Bahamas and just spend that time connecting with your spouse. It's not possible to spend years in therapy working on this. You need your time back. You need to work through this stuff pretty quickly, because what we know statistically is that people who have unhappy marriages or are unhappily single perform worse in their professional life. They perform worse financially. And so the stakes are really high. You don't have much time. And frankly, when I was getting help for myself, I didn't find many resources that actually understood the mindset, that kind of understood that like high-performing mindset of, yeah, I'm not going to come home and spend hours like cooking a lavish dinner for my husband trying to be my feminine. Like, that's not going to work. Like, I've got work to do. And so I really wanted to build a solution that was aimed at busy executives, busy entrepreneurs, and get them to the root of their relationship issues really quickly and solve for it in a long-term, systematic way. That's what got me to doing what I'm doing now.
Interesting. Really, yeah. One thing I have, so a lot of these high achievers, what is the main struggle? Is it dating? Is it marriage? Is it staying in marriage? Is it family? What is the top struggle that you see among your clients?
Yeah, totally. I'd say there are two main struggles that I see, kind of two different sides of the coin. One is being single, and perhaps you called off an engagement, perhaps you're divorced, and you're struggling to find a partner that actually matches your lifestyle, matches your needs. And because you're so busy, you don't want to spend forever on the dating apps or whatever, right? You're busy, you've got high expectations for yourself, for your partner, and finding someone who connects with that and can fit into your life, into your busy schedule is a real challenge. That's one thing. And then the second thing that I see is people who have been married for maybe 8+ years, like a long time. And because of their high achieving career, because of that lifestyle, they may have outgrown their partner. And actually, what happens so often when you're really busy, and especially if you have kids, but it doesn't even matter if you have kids or not, when you're really busy, it's quite easy to be distracted, right? Distracted from the problems at home through the external work. And so you can be pretty unhappy in your relationship or have a big conflict or a big betrayal or a big disconnect. And because it's so busy, it's pretty easy just to be sucked into that and bury your head in the sand and not tend to the betrayal or the conflict. And then wake up 8 years down the line and realize that actually you're really disconnected, you're really unhappy, you haven't processed what happened back then, you don't even know who you are anymore. And you can't live like that, right? That busyness is a real issue. But I wouldn't say it's the cause of the issue. The cause of the issue is that none of us have got taught how to be in a relationship. None of us know. And most of us come to the table not perfectly healed, securely attached people, right? We come to the table with a whole deluge of our own blind spots, our own unconscious blocks, our own projections, our own traumas, especially later in life, that we need to solve for them. And most people don't know how to solve for them. So that's the biggest problem I see with people in relationship.
Yeah. Fascinating. And another question I commonly get, because so you think this idea of, because I read this statistic that people are remaining single, they may date, or now they call their spouses partners. They don't get married, but they call them partners, and they don't have kids, and especially entrepreneurs. And one, I was having lunch with one of my colleagues as well. And he was telling me he'll date and have a girlfriend or whatever. But I'm not going to get married because there's this fear, this deep-seated fear that all the women he dates or just after him for his money? What do you have to say for that?
Oh, you've got the betrayal core wound. Is what I'll say to that. And he doesn't have to live like that. Bend in my way, seriously. He doesn't have to live that way. That is going to be a projection. That is going to be something from his childhood. And the reason this stuff is so big and insidious. So between the ages of 0 and 8, as your brain is forming and you're a little child and you're growing up, you have a natural egocentrism. We all do. Okay. Part of being human is part of being a child and a human adult, a human child adult. And so as your brain is developing, your brain waves haven't fully developed. You have a lot of brain waves which are essentially unable. You don't have the capacity to discern and reject things. You take everything that you experience around you and you make it about yourself. It's how children learn. And so if something happened in his childhood, and I say this with confidence because I had a very similar wound to what he has. If something happens in your childhood where trust was breached, safety was breached, maybe a parent said, yeah, I'll get you ice cream, and then they didn't. These tiny little micro moments, which to an adult, they don't really mean anything. To an adult, it's, yeah, of course, like mom forgot, like big deal. Maybe mom's stressed at work, like we're financially in a difficult situation and the parents are worried about that. Like you can evaluate all this stuff, but as a child, you don't know that. And so a little micro moment can happen. The child will internalize that, feel strong emotion around it, and suddenly it becomes part of your inner conditioning. It becomes part of your filter and the lens within which you see the world. It becomes a belief that you make about yourself. And so when you start to have this kind of belief that I can't trust, I'm going to be betrayed, which is really what will be happening if the parents or primary caregivers or whoever it might be repeat this. And again, remember, we live in a society which is really quite tough for kids to grow up in, right? There's a lot of things here that we really can't trust. We can't trust the media. We can't trust even the food that we're eating. We can't trust the education system. There's a lot of things that are actually wrong, right? So as little children, we develop this kind of mistrust. And so this wound develops that I can't trust, I will be betrayed. And so as you grow up later in life, that becomes your conditioning. And that conditioning dictates the information that you take in through your subconscious mind. Because all around us are a million, billions of bits of information around us at any given point. Your brain cannot physically take it all in. You lose your mind. So your brain is constantly deciding and selecting bits of information of what it chooses to take in based on your belief system. And so if you have a belief that I can't trust, I'll be betrayed, you're going to be taking in information around you to confirm that. You're also, and this is where it gets really important, you're also going to behave in ways to make that belief true for you, because the brain needs congruence. It needs to have externally what it believes internally. So if you believe that I'm going to be betrayed or I can't trust, you're going to behave in ways to make that true for you. That is literally how the brain just has to operate. And so the way that might happen is maybe you'll start to be secretive, right? Because you don't trust people. So maybe you'll be secretive. Maybe like actually start hiding your wealth, or you start hiding your money. And so in the process of doing that, you then start to draw in people who are actually attracted to someone who's a bit secretive because they're being secretive, because maybe they're hiding something. And so then you start attracting people who are actually going to confirm the belief that you have internally. And so all of this to say, what your friend needs to do is work on that core root level. That's what I mean about the root of all relationship problems. Once he actually reconditions himself to recognize that he can trust and he is safe and all of these really wonderful things, he will then not only feel safer going into a relationship and getting married, because he will trust himself and trust the people that he attracts, the women that he attracts, and he will have his own boundaries and he will know that he is actually safe. He will also automatically reject people that are untrustworthy, and he will attract people who are trustworthy. Whether you need a prenup or a postnup, whether the person will take all your money or wants all your money or not, is entirely decided by you, really. Like, you get to decide internally what kind of a reality you want to live. The problem is most people don't know that, and most people don't go deep enough to recondition their inner world to reflect the kind of outer world that they want to live in. So when I talk about getting to the root cause of the relationship problem, this is what I'm talking about, right? Most people that I work with walk around complaining that they feel really alone, that they feel really unsupported. that their partner isn't doing enough, their partner doesn't understand them, they feel really misunderstood, they feel really unseen, they feel really unheard. And 70% of that is going to be their own internal conditioning. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the partner does, because their worldview, their belief system is already conditioned to reject anything the partner does. And so you can go to marriage counseling, it's a waste of time, waste of money. You can go do therapy and talk about it till the cows come in, waste of time, waste of money. What you need to do is go to the root, recondition these beliefs, and then you can work on the relationship, because you'll be able to see it clearly. You'll be able to handle it clearly. That's a really long answer for you, but does that kind of make sense?
Max Bankman, I'm the new doctor.
Welcome aboard the Odyssey.
ABC Thursdays.
This ship is heaven. We're tending to our passengers' dreams. I'm in.
From 911 executive producer Ryan Murphy comes a splashy new drama on a luxury cruise ship with Joshua Jackson and Don Johnson.
It's your job to keep everyone alive.
She's in VFib. 1, 2, 3. Clear.
I have a pulse.
You're going to be okay.
Dr. Odyssey. Thursdays, 9/8 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Looking to invest? Start your journey by exploring exchange-traded funds with Global X ETFs. Exchange-traded funds, or ETFs for short, create baskets of stocks, bonds, and other assets that you can buy in a single trade. Global X specializes in ETFs that track emerging trends, like the rise of artificial intelligence, as well as strategies aimed to generate income potential. Visit globalxetfs.com to discover how you can get started.
Yeah. And I have another follow-up question, because I had another colleague in med school, very physically attractive, could have her choice of any guy, but she always attracted the losers, like just losers and disrespect. And first, talk about this idea, because I was talking to her one time and she's like, yeah, I'm attracted to this type. This is my archetypal attraction. This is what excites me, right? Then the last relationship, it ended badly. So she was like, yeah, I'm not going to date for 1 or 2 years. I got to figure this out. I have to work on myself, something. And then she started her current partner is a good person. He's a good guy, but like, it wasn't her archetypal guy that she was attracted to. So talk about, is she missing out, or like biologically attracted to these types, and talk about like the trauma healing process and how she's attract that right person.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're describing there is exactly the kind of thing that I work with, right? If we hear about women who, the big one that everyone's throwing around, I attract narcissists, or I attract men who cheat. Yeah. All of that kind of, if at any point you're repeating a pattern, if at any point you're with someone and you can look back and be like, I've had this before, you can bet like 1,000% that is because of something that's going on internally with you. Okay. And 9.9 times out of 10, that's going to be because you have a belief system around the quality of person that you deserve and what feels familiar to you.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that somewhere down the line, one of her primary caregivers displayed the qualities of the types of men that she finds herself attracted to, and it feels very familiar. And the way that these men that she dates, the loser types, make her feel is how she would feel in her childhood. It's the blueprint of what she is familiar with in terms of her attachment to love, in terms of the way that she relates to love. Her intimate blueprint, her conditioning, her kind of original set point is from that childhood experience, right? And so I'm not sure what core she will have, what kind of different beliefs she'll have to work with her, but there's going to be stuff there that's been there throughout her whole life. Right. And she will continue to attract these men, this kind of quality of man, until she goes inward and does that reconditioning work. And that is all you have to do. Truly, the more work that I've done in this space, the more execs and entrepreneurs that I've worked with, the more I am convinced that this is 70% of the work. It really is. After that, yes, you need to learn communication, you need to learn your needs and your boundaries, emotional and regulation, all those different things. All of that's pointless until you've done the reconditioning. Truly, because your subconscious mind is 95 to 97% of what runs your reality. Your conscious is only 5 to 3%, depending on the studies that you want to follow. Meaning, It doesn't matter if she's going to say, oh, I want to attract better quality men and I'm going to start like raising my standards and I'm not going to tolerate this behavior. I'm going to go for this. I'm going to go for that. Great. You're still going to be using your little 3 to 5% of your brain to get that. And that's not a high percentage. And it's like climbing a mountain when actually you could just go around it or go through it. You could build a little tunnel and go through it by working with the subconscious mind. And so when people are like, oh, I'm going to give up sugar, there's no point trying to say you're going to give up sugar until you've worked on the subconscious attachment and desire for sugar, right? Which your body needs anyway. So all of that is to say, she needs to do the inner work and she needs to look at the core beliefs and the core wounds within her that drive her to be comfortable and seeking out these types of men. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. And I know because we have 5 minutes. And follow-up is, okay, so she's got this archetypal attraction to the bad boy or the playboy type. And then now she's like but this always caused like wreaking havoc. And now she's married to a stable, solid person, but it may not have the emotional spikes that she had with those. So how do you, like, is she just basically a dumbed down marriage, or is it just she handles it, or they just spark some romance? I'm just curious for me.
Is she happy? Is she happy in the marriage?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if she's happy in the marriage and they've been married for a while, then my hunch is that she did the work. She did the work, right? Because a healthy marriage, a healthy, secure relationship should not be full of emotional ups and downs. It should not be full of drama. You can absolutely enjoy theatrics and drama and excitement and adventure. You can enjoy passion, but that kind of push-pull intensity, that roller coaster emotion isn't something that we typically associate with a healthy, secure relationship. Healthy, secure relationships, I tell all my clients, there should almost be a bit of a boring element to it, which is why you never see it on TV, seen in Hollywood, right? Because quite frankly, it's dull. The people are happy, they love each other, they're stable. Yeah, they have a few arguments here and there, and a bit of conflict. You get a little bit hairy, but they recover pretty quickly. They're growing. And really, their mental real estate is available for other things. For thinking about, well, what do I want to do with my life? Who do I want to become? Self-actualization. Your relationship, the person you're dating, should not be taking up all of your mental bandwidth. That is a sign that there's a problem, right? Whether it's the you and your own inner work, which, yes, there'll be stuff there, or the relationship itself. So it sounds like she probably did the inner work. And oftentimes when we're in that kind of cycle and we've had enough, that's the tipping point where we decide, okay, I'm just going to work on this. I'm just going to do something. So I would be very curious to hear what she did to get into that healthy relationship.
Yeah.
If she's happy. If she's not happy, then yes, she may well have settled and dumbed down and checked out, which is a whole different story.
And so do you think, there was also another statistic, is people would like to remain single because they don't want to, they don't want to have these like dysfunctional relationships, but they don't want to have boring marriages. So they just stay single and like they have partners and they could be together for years or just months and then move on. That way it's a little bit easier. Is that kind of why this trend is happening, or is it culturally like no kids, not getting married, staying single, staying mobile?
Yeah, I think there definitely is. I think there's two things happening. On the one hand, I do think that people are fearing relationships more these days, right? We've been, that statistic of 50% of relationships end in divorce, all of them kind of thrown down our throats. Yeah, it's true. And I think there is an increasing kind of avoidance around that. I also think that we are becoming an increasingly fearful avoidant culture. Because if you think about it, this is where I get a little bit like radical. The society that we live in conditions us to look for quick dopamine hits. First of all, we live in a pretty terrifying society, right? If you turn on the TV, my goodness, there's war, climate change, political uncertainty, recession, like horrific things happening everywhere, right? And we see that in color every single day. So that's being pulled down our throats, shoved down our throats. Plus then you have social media and like, goodness, you go to Instagram, like whatever, it's 24/7. So we live in a very kind of hyper anxious world. On top of that, we live in a hyper consumerist world where, yeah, if you feel bad about something, you can actually go and buy something. You can go on whatever dating app. You can solve for it pretty quickly. You can basically buy your way out of your anxiety pretty rapidly, which means that you can get that quick dopamine hit. Relationships, intimacy, that is not a quick dopamine hit. It might be at the beginning, pretty much a slow burn though. To have a real soul conscious, healthy love, it's like up there. It's dopamine, but it's slow and it's steady and it takes time. And there'll be dips and there'll be hard moments, but it's all worth it, right? It's much more stable, it's consistent, and it's free. But it comes with time. It comes with a bit of inner work. And so I think we're in this world where everyone's anxious, everyone's a little bit stressed. Work is more stressful than ever. The stats on that are like insane. And so people are looking for a quick out, right? And that quick out, you can buy it and so you can stay single. Like the amount of single people that I work with who are like, yeah, I feel crap and I go play golf, or I go buy myself a sports car, or I go, drinking with my buddies, or like I go to the gym. These aren't inherently bad things, but they're avoidance mechanisms. And so I think there is that kind of real culture. And the final thing I'll say is like the amount of, and it breaks my heart. I typically have men, my average age is like 45 that work with me, whether they're single or in a relationship. I have clients up to 62. Women, the average age is like 38, 39. I don't have any women over the age of 39. And that's so interesting to me because when I do talk to women in their 40s and 50s, there's this kind of collective sense of it's just too hard. I just don't want to go there. Like I've been burned. I would rather focus on my independence, make my money, and buy myself a nice holiday. And I'm like, I get it. That doesn't make it inherently, like I get that you want that freedom and I'm with you, like I really am. And at the same time, men can give you that freedom. Love can give you that freedom. We just need to work at it collectively. So long answer there. I think it's like a sad reality.
Yeah. Interesting. And how can people find you and learn more about you and reach out to you and work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. The best place to find me is going to be on my website, so www.katarinapolonska.com. On there, I have a free training on my methodology, the behavioral science of attraction, so you can watch that free training there. I talk about all the pitfalls that I see with people in relationship and singles, and also how to overcome them. So really how to become what I call successfully in love. There's a really good training on there. Highly recommend it. And then you can also catch me on LinkedIn. So that's the social media platform I'm really on. LinkedIn, Katarina Polonska, drop me a DM. I post on there daily. Tons of rich value there as well.
Interesting. Yeah, this whole area is, if you have a really solid, like an awesome relationship, it can take you further. And it's like you were saying, it's like, is it risky? But really interesting conversation. I really enjoyed it. And thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love being here.